Okay, so the Rebbe was discussing, we're in the middle of Ois Yud. The Rebbe was discussing that uh, through the Avodah of Iskafia, we are able to be mamshich the levels of Eirei Sof, which is higher in the world. The Rebbe was asking, how is it possible? We're saying we're getting the Eirei Sof, Lifnat Tzimtzum, and even the highest Eiris, as the Rebbe explains, and the Rebbe says, how is it possible to bring down all these oiris when we're in the level of Helem and this is the level of oir? The Rebbe is going to explain that it's through iskafia when you push yourself and you are doing against what your wishes are. The Eberster sort of does against what his wishes are, which means he goes beyond the nature, even though that b'derech haragil, that oil cannot come down, but because the yid serves the Eberster. Avoida. The Rebbe discussed avoida means working hard, working in a way of iskafia to force yourself, so that way you can be mamshich this higher oil, as the Rebbe will explain. But now the Rebbe goes into a detail. Where is this level of oil that we're talking about? So the Rebbe brings down the posik from Va'avaditem as Hashem Elokeichem. That Avaditem is avodah, service, but it says Avaditem as Havaya Elokeichem, which means that the service, the avodah of Iskafyu, the Avaditem brings down Havaya, the level which is the level higher from Elikim. And even higher than that, as the Rebbe will say, even higher than Havaya. Look inside. Yesh lahoisi, if we can add to what we said before, that the Pasuk says you need avodah. The mezeh shekesiv va'avadetem es Havaya elikechem, from the fact that the Pasuk says you should survive elikechem, move on. So we understand Shahavoida Hashedus, that the service, the hard work, it's not just to the name Elikim to be mamshich from the Shem Elikim, which is Oyin Hamimale, the light which from Hashem that fills the world, Elogam, but also Lahavaya, also to the level Havavaya, which is Oira Seva, because the Pasuk says about the Tem as Havaya. Havaya is the Oira Seva. And the Rebbe is going to go weiter even further, even more than bringing down. Havaya Oira Seva, you're bringing down even a higher light, because the whole Torah is written like somebody is relating that you shall serve Havaya Lekechem. Who is saying? The Torah is saying, Va'avadetem es Hashem Lekechem. So the Ramban says that that's the shlishi that somebody else is saying to you, you serve Havaya Lekechem. And that is the level of Oiris Sof, which is even higher than Memale. Let's look inside. And to add, so right now we said that it's not just the mamali that we bring down through avodah, but we bring down also the havaya. So the Rebbe said to add to it the alpi mashe kosuv haramban, based on what the Ramban writes. Torah nichtava besignoin. The shlishi hamedaber, the Torah style is that it's written like a third person who is speaking, telling you about Vaidaber Hashem, Va'avadetem es Hashem Elokeichem. Somebody's telling you that Kimoy Vaidaber Hashem El Moshe. Somebody is relating to you that Havayi is speaking to Moshe. In this case, is Va'avadetem es Havaya is the Shlishi Hamedaber. Somebody is saying to you that you shall serve. The Yadua, and we know, it's known, the Shlish Hamedaber Hu Atzmus Oir Ein Sov, that this third speaking, the medaber, is the atzmus ein sof shalamaylo gam havaya, which is even higher than havaya. So Shloimar, so we can say, so because we're saying that there is the Slisha Medaber, the Rebbe wants to add, mitzvah vavadetem es havaya, ushlishi hamedaber, this that we're saying, that the mitzvah, we're saying, who's saying this? The Slisha Medaber is telling you that vavadetem, that you shall serve. Because the idea of avaditem avodah, the iskafia, touches, is connected also to atzmus eidesof, not just to havaya, but even the atzmus. That's what the Rebbe's hisofa is, that the havai avodah brings down a higher level even than havaya. So according to this, how are we going to touch the pasuk? So we're bringing down Elikim, we're bringing down Havaya, we're even bringing down the Atzos. So how are we touching the pasuk? Pirush, what's the meaning? What does it mean? You'll survive the Shall Yidei va'avadetem, that through the avodah, through the service, which is iskafia, which is subduing itself, nimshach gilui havaya eir hasevav. So we bring down avadetem savaya, we bring down the revelation of the light, which is sevav. V'hamshachas agilu dehavaya b'pnimis, and we bring down Havaya in Elikechem, which means we bring it down in a pnimia so that the Sovev doesn't remain Sovev, but it becomes on a higher level. The ad, in such a way is it b'pnimia, shehavaya hu Elikechem. That Havaya is Elikechem, it becomes koichachem v'chayuschem. It becomes your power and your energy, which means that it's fully bipnimius. The Eir HaSeviv becomes your energy and becomes your powers, which is the Yichud Seviv Mamale. So this is the union of the level of Seviv Mamale of Havaya and Elikim. Ba'al Yidei Zen Nimshach. And through this also extends Gam Gilui, Gam Hagilui, the Atzmus Ein Sof. Also the revelation of Ein Sof, Shlisha Medaber, the level of Shlishi that speaks Shalamailo, Gam Havaya Seva, which is higher also from Havaya, from Seva Kulamim, you have the level of Atzmus Ein Sof, the Shlisha Medaber. There is Havaya Lekechem Meyachet Sevev Mamale, and then you get also Shlisha Medaber, which is Havaya Sevev. Yeshleimar. So the Rebbe says like this now: the Havaya should we get the Gilui, the level of Havaya, which is in the definition of revelation, but is higher than world. It's tak a sovev, but it's still a level of gilui. Who b'chlolu sa'oir shalifnei hatzimtzum sheir b'gilui. So that, generally speaking, that is the light that was there, memale mokem hacholo, that filled the place of where the world was created before the tzimtzum sheir b'gilui. There was a oir there. That's the level of havaya. Ushlisha hamedaber shalamayla mehavaya, and the shlisha hamedaber, which is higher than havaya, ubechlolus, generally speaking, we call that etzem ha'oir. That's the essence of the oir. That's not the oir that was begilu lifnei hatzimtzum, but is the essence of the oir. Shegam lifnei hatzimtzum lo hoye begilu. Even before the tzimtzum, it wasn't begilu. So those are the two that I've discussed earlier, the two levels in the oir. We have the oir that was memale mokem hacholo take before the tzimtzum, but it was still together gilui. And that's included in Havaya, generally speaking. This higher level we're discussing now, the Shlisha Medaber, is the Etzem Ha'ir, that even before the Tzimtzum was not begin. So now, how is it possible that all this great Oiris, the level of Havaya and the Shlisha Medaber, the Etzem Ha'ir, how do we bring it down? We say through the level of Iskafia, Avaditem. How is it? Biura Inyan, to explain the idea, they have the Iskafia through the work of Iskafia, Shinui Harigilus Vahateva, to change your habits and your nature. Nimshach Hagilu Dahavaya. So we bring down, extends the revelation of Havaya, Begam Hagilu. The B'chinas Shlisha Medaber, and also the revelation of the level of the Shlisha Medaber. Yeshloi Marapi Masha Kosu B'Teres Harav Hamagid Anal B'Pirush HaKosu. We can explain based on what is written in the teaching of the Magid. It says in the Pasuk, Val Demus HaKisei Demus Kimare Odom, that the image that was on the throne, on the Kisei HaKoved, what was the image by Novi Yecheskel? It was a Demus Kimare Odom. It looked like a person. So what does the Magid said? Sha'kodesh Baruch Hu Kimare Odom. The Eibishter is like the mirror, the image of the mirrors the person. It's a Mara Odom. Just like it is aroused by the person, likewise, it's also aroused by Hashem. The his is by the person mirrors, and the Eibishter mirrors that milmailo by Hashem. As the pasuk says, also it says Hashem Tzilcha. God is your shadow. Shehashem hu k'moy hatzil shulcha. The Eibishter Hashem is like your shadow, which means whatever you do, the shadow follows you exactly. And therefore, al yidei sheha'odom koifes atzmoi lasis keneged ritzoyne v'tivei. Through a person pushing himself to do against his will, against his nature. So also the way we bring down these Giluyim from above is not according to their nature. So you were asking before, how can we bring down such great Giluyim? It's not the normal way. It's not the nature. It's only because we have the level of Iskafia. Shagam ha'oir shagilu shaloi mitzad tivoi ulifnei hatzimtu l'maylo moilomois. So that also the light, which Gilui naturally is before Tzimtzum, is higher than world. That's the oir. Meir Ba'ilam, and that comes down after the Tzimtzum comes down into the world. You say to Mizu, even more than this. Not only the oir that was an oir was begeder Gilui, but shekam oir shemitzad ativoi ulemayla megilui. That naturally it's higher than Gilui. It's the etzem oir. Gam megilui if not Tzimtzum, even if not Tzimtzum, it wasn't begilui. Nimshach begilu ba'olam comes down begilu ba'olam. So what's the answer? Very pashut. The answer is you're doing hiskafia. You're doing against your nature, against what you will want to do. The Eibishter also does against the nature, and the Eibishter brings down a higher level, which is not really natural for it to come down. But that only explains why we are able to draw down this light. It's not a natural phenomenon, but the question is, how is the world able to receive those kiluyim? One thing is, why are we mamshich it? Because it's kafia. Okay, so you're mamshich something which is not in the natural way. But how are you able to perceive it? How is the world able to contain such a powerful oil, even the oil of Lifnei HaTzimtzum? And the Rebbe is going to explain how Iskafia actually changes that around as well. Hine, Inyan Hanal, this idea that we discussed, who biur al zeh, that only explains shahagiluyim nimshachim ba'olam, that these giluyim are drawn down into the world. But we still need to understand eich yochel ha'olam lekabel giluyim nailim. How is the world able to receive such great revelations? Shalomainu lo mimenu, which is much higher than the world. The world is getting such revelation which is much higher than him. Be'ein areich, uncomparable. And it should not be negated from his existence because of this great light. Move on. And even more, it's not understood. The Metzias ha'olamos v'gilui ha'oir shelifnei hatzimtzum. That the fact that we have a world on one hand, and then you're saying you are giving the light of Lifnei HaTzimtzum into the Gam Gilu Ha'oir Shoy V'Malem Mokum HaCholol. Also, first there was the oir that filled the whole place of the hollow. Where the world became, there was the light of Ein Sof. So we're saying there couldn't be a world. So there had to be a tzimtzum. So being a world with the light of Lifnei Tzimtzum hem shnei hafochim, they're two opposite. They're direct opposite. Kumuvan mizeh, as you can understand from the fact, she's havos the mitzias ha'olamos hidavke misilukoyer. How was the world existent? The Eibishter had to remove the light in order to allow for a world. So that means that the light, the Oir of Hashem, is too powerful to be a world, because we can't have a world. We have to remove the world. We have to remove the light in order to create the world. How are they able to receive the revelation of the light of for the tzimtzum? Seems to contradict the whole reason why the Eibishter made the tzimtzum, because the world was not a keli for that oir, so he had to be mesalik the oir. And now you're telling me that you're bringing back that light into the oilam, which is the opposite of it. And now the Rebbe is going to explain that the real question is on the oir that was memale the cholo lifnei hatzimtzum, because that's directly what contradicts it, because you say that oir was not contained. We don't have, the question is not so much on the etzem ha'oir, which was not begilu even lifnei hatzimtzum, how that comes down. That's not so much the question. The question here is the oir that was begilu, that needed to be mesulik, you had to remove it. How could that oir come later? Rebbe explains. Even though the light that shined also before, that did not shine before the tzimtzum, the etzem oir, who oir naile yoiser meha oir shoya memali mokem acholol, that's an elevated oir, which is more elevated than the light that filled the mokem acholol. And so, the question should be, how could that light come down into the oilam? He said, no. You can now, this question that we're asking, That the tzimtzum from which the world was created and the light of the earth is two opposites. That is mainly not about the oir that was etzem ha'oir. It's the question is mainly about the light that was memale mokem ha'cholo. Explains. The Rebbe Marashab explains in the Hemshach from Tov Reish Ayin Beis in Terav Achiluk bein Pu'ulas HaTzimtzum be'oir HaGavul Shoresh HaMemale uPu'ulas HaTzimtzum be'oir HaGavul Shoresh HaSevav. There is a different effect, the Tzimtzum that was in the Eir HaGavul, that's the Shoresh HaMemale Kol Ha'almin, and the Tzimtzum be'oir HaGavul Shoresh HaSevav, and the Shoresh of the Sevav. The Tzimtzum in the Eir HaGavul was the Eir itself became restricted, it became contracted. The tzimtzum from the Eir HaSevav is that it shouldn't shine. You don't receive it, but there is no tzimtzum in the Eir itself. The Pu'ulas HaTzimtzum be'oir HaGavul, the impact of the tzimtzum in the Eir HaGavul, hi be'oir atzma, is the light itself. The light was powerful, restricted. The light became restricted. Shal yidei HaTzimtzum bo b'mido gvul. Through this tzimtzum, it comes in a measure and limited. So that means the light, which was a bigger, powerful light, became measured and limited. However, u'pu'ulas hatzimtzum b'oir habligvul, what is the pu'ula of the tzimtzum? Loy b'hoir atzmai. That's not that the oir becomes a change, that there is a pu'ula. Elo shelo yoir. Over there, it's just so that it doesn't shine in the place of the cholol. Before the cholol was oil there, now there's no shine there, but we didn't change that oil itself. Therefore, the disappearing or the blocking, the hiding of the oil habligvul, it's not because it became hidden, it's just went away. It did not become obscure, hidden in the tzimtzum. Obscured it, how it's obscured in the tzimtzum. The tzimtzum in the Eir HaBligvul was that it was obscured, included in its mocker. The inyan his almost b'mekoirei is that we're saying that the oir, the soivev, is obscured in its source. Means it doesn't shine in the place of the cholo because it's been included. It became obscure. This alim in its mocker. But there was no change in the oil itself. The oil remained. It's just not there anymore, but it's included in the mocha. This is similar to what explained elsewhere. The that in the Eir HaBligvul there was no actual restriction on the light itself, but the tzimtzum just touched it. So, first of all, there's a chiluk between the tzimtzum of the oir ha-memale and the tzimtzum the oir ha-seviv. The tzimtzum of the oir ha-memale, that oir itself became restricted less, whereas the tzimtzum in the oir ha-seviv means that it was misalim b'mekoyre, but the tzimtzum did not touch, did not affect the oir itself. Seir mezu. And furthermore, שגם פעולה זו באויר הבליגבול, שאינוי מאיר בגילוי במקום החולול, even this act in the era believable that it doesn't shine anymore in the place of the hollow where the world was. There's no more believable because it goes into the mokorak benegeya la'olamos. That only is that it's not begilu, it's only to the world. She'eina nirgash bohem. They don't feel it. There was really no helem. It's only a helem that the world doesn't feel that. But v'loy benegeya la'oir. But the oil didn't change. So two things: there was no change in the oil itself, and there's also what you just misalem is only relative to the worlds, but in the oil itself, there is no tzimtzum at all. And there's two ideas in this that we're saying that it's not really in the world. Is that the way it's in his blessed knowledge, the way Hashem looks at it from Hashem's knowledge, Gam Achshov, Lachere HaTzimtzum, even now after the Tzimtzum, Umeir B'mokim HaCholo B'gilu Mamash. Even after the Tzimtzum, it shines in the place of Cholo B'gilu Mamash. So from the perspective of the Eibishter, his blessed knowledge, it exists now too. Nothing happened with regards to Yidiyose. It's only Legabe As. That's Kivur B'kam B'kirmis. That's one aspect. A second aspect, we say to Mizu, the Kivon Shem Legabe Eir Hablikvul Ein Hatzimtzum Mailim. Since relative to the light of the Blikvul, that its restriction does not obscure Hare Mitzada Eir Hablikvul. So from the perspective of the believable, nothing happened. He can be actually revealed that he should be felt in the worlds. The Eid HaGavul, because when we talk about the light of the Gavul, Kivon Sheboi Paul HaTzimtzum, when we talk about the light of Kavul, in which the restriction impacted, that revelation, there was actually a tzimtzum in that light, so that now that oil of Kavul should be by the relative to the world. That's why it's hard. She's so it's hard for it to be revealed as it is in its root lifnei tzimtzum because it actually experienced the tzimtzum. Kishnei yonim elu, for these two ideas of tzimtzum, pulas hatzimtzum shahoisavoy, the act of the tzimtzum that wasn't it. And then the revelation, not in the order that has been said by the Tzimtzum, those are two opposite, because the Tzimtzum changed the Oir and became a Gavul limited so that there could be a world. And now you're saying that you're being Mamshich Lifnat Tzimtzum. Mashenkin, Oir HaBelikvul, but Oir HaBelikvul, since relative to there was no tzimtzum, in order that it should be begilu, so in order to be begoli, not in the order that was set up through the tzimtzum, to be mamshich the eir, so that it should revelation, so you should be felt in the world. This is not so difficult. The Rebbe explains that the main question in the Maimer that we're saying that it's difficult, it's really benegeya to the Eir Hamemale, which lechatchila, there's a restriction there. So in order for the world to be able to contain it, and then we're saying that you can be mamshich the Eir that needed the tzimtzum, that seems to be a contradiction. Meila benegeya to the Eir HaSovev, since the tzimtzum wasn't in the Eir itself. we can understand, because now it's Begila, because in essence, the Tzimtzum never touched the Eir HaSevim Kulam to begin with, because it didn't restrict it itself. It was just Misalim. And now it could be revealed. So the Rebbe is going to explain. The Rebbe just there's one more point here. Let's so over there in the Hemshech from Tov Resh Ayin Beis that we're discussing, the difference between the light that is limited and the bligvul, so that's discussing. It's not talking about the recipient. It's not talking about the world. It's talking about the bringing down the light. That to draw down the light of Gavul as it is in its root is kosher. It talks about how we bring down the light. As opposed to bringing down the light of Bligvul. But here we're discussing already not how to bring down the light. We're discussing how are the Kalim, how is the world accepting it? The similar is also with regards to this, that the world receives a revelation which is not in Be'erach, not compared. When we talk about the light of Bligvul, that if the revelation of the Eira Bligvul, maybe we can say it's possible the revelation because it's an Eira Bligvul. Even though the world mitzad themselves are not vessels to the Gilu. That's not so kosher as far as the receiving goes. But the Gilu, how could the world get a light which is not Berka, will be Iker Benegel Gilu Eragvul. The main question of Eragvul, the Rebbe is saying over there in the Maimer, it's mainly talking about the difference between the Eragvul and Bligvul as far as being Mavshechim. Here, the Rebbe says the same thing is about the recipient, that it's more difficult to understand how the recipient can get the Eir HaGavul. The key on Sheba is that Paul at Simtsum. Since in this light the Tzimtzum accomplished that it should be like the world. How is it possible for the world to get a light that is not Be'erkai? That's the main question. And the idea is like explained in the Hemshech, through the avodah of turning around, turning the darkness light, we turn the darkness of the tzimtzum to oir. That way, the oilomis that were created in tzimtzum become kelim, the gilu oir naila yeser, to the revelation for a higher light. Hein. So they become a higher level. Whether it's also for the revelation and also as it touches the Eira the Gam Gilu Eira Bligvul may have been Bepnimis, also the light of Bligvul shines in them in a Pnimis. So the bottom line is his hapcha changing around. If you change around, that changes around the Tzimtzum. So now the whole question is, how could it come? And the answer is, it changes around and it's no longer a tzimtzum over there. And since there's no longer a tzimtzum, you can get the Eir HaBligvul, you can get the Gavul, and you get the Eir HaBligvul to come down in a Pneumius. Today is the yahrzeit of my father, Shalom. So this should be a schus for Ilu Nishmosei, for Nochem ben Tzvi Hirsch, to have an Aliyas Neshama, and be good to better for us and for Klal Yisrael, and we should zeicher to be V'kabel pnei Mashiach tzidkenu very, very soon, b'korav mamash. Okay.
Amen.
Over here,
Amen. Good Shabbos.